Hi, I'm Christa Jacobson, headmistress of the Budo, where we teach authentic ninjutsu and classical samurai bujutsu. And for those of you who don't know what that is, it's the ancient martial arts of the ninja and samurai. In today's video, we are going to discuss self-defense techniques versus martial arts training. This is a very old debate, which is better, training in self-defense, training in martial arts. And today that is going to be the topic of conversation. Now to do that, we're going to have to delve into other little areas of training and discussion to kind of fully get a grasp on where I'm going with this particular topic. An example, as a Koryu teacher, we're going to talk about Koryu. Is Koryu applicable for self-defense? We're going to talk about martial arts, and is martial arts training or traditional martial arts training applicable towards self-defense? Is self-defense training and self-defense techniques, does that give you the same benefits as training in martial arts? So we're going to talk about all of that, and that's going to be the topic of today's video. Now, before we begin, I always give a shout out to all of my new viewers. So if this is the first video that you guys have seen of me, my name is Christa Jacobson. I'm the headmistress of the Budo, which means School of the Warrior Way. We teach Koryu Ninjutsu and Koryu Bujutsu, so the ancient martial arts of the ninja and samurai. This organization does have other areas of focus, such as reality-based self-defense, weapons training and tactics, concealed carry, survival skills, martial arts theory, thought, and philosophy, martial arts conditioning. If any of these topics interest you at all, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, and don't forget to click the bell. I do post 2 to 3 videos every single week, so if you're interested in any of those topics, please subscribe, click the bell, and keep up with what we're doing. So today's topic is going to be self-defense techniques versus martial arts training. Now, this debate is a very old debate, and a lot of people will say neither one of them work. Just buy a firearm, buy an edged weapon, train yourself in weapons. Don't even bother with self-defense techniques or bother with martial arts training. But the people that are on the martial arts side will tell you that there's a greater benefit towards martial arts, and the people that don't train in martial arts, they're going to tell you that there's going to be a greater benefit with just learning self-defense techniques, situational awareness, etc., etc. Of course, across the spectrum, I believe everyone, whether you're training in self-defense techniques or self-defense training, martial arts training, or just, you're buying various different types of weaponry, whether it's concealed carry, firearms, edged weapons, etc. I personally believe everyone should be carrying some sort of a weapon anyway, but we are going to be talking about this particular subject today. So to start, let me tell you a little bit about why this topic comes up today. So as you guys know, I am a Koryu instructor. I teach Koryu Ninjutsu, Koryu Bujutsu, so we are teaching the ancient arts of Japan, and Koryu is the arts that predate 1868, right? So real quick for you guys who don't know the difference between Koryu Bujutsu and Gendai Budo when dealing with traditional Japanese martial arts, Koryu are the arts predating 1868. So those are the arts that were in the age of the samurai, the age of the ninja, that type of time period, right? Gendai Budo, or just people say Gendai, those martial arts were created after 1868. So those were arts such as they focus on the concept of do, like karate do, aikido, kendo, judo, iaido. They were really focused on this concept of more like self-betterment, self-enlightenment, finding your own path, getting some sort of a personal experience with the arts and bettering yourself. And that idea of do really translated to other areas of the world. So you see things like taekwondo, hapkido, or even arts like jikundo, right? So the idea, right, of do, or the way of enlightenment, the way of, really became a concept for many different types of martial arts after 1868. Previous to 1868, previous to the Gendai meaning like modern, so Gendai Budo means like the modern martial arts. So that's after 1868. Previous, so 1868 back, it's called Koryu, meaning old school, Bujutsu, or warrior arts, or warrior technique. And those were arts that were meant to be on the battlefield. You are fighting someone and you're at war. They're warring techniques. It's that type of training. This is the reason why it comes into play, because when you're training in Koryu, you're training in knife fighting, sword fighting, stick fighting, spears and bow and arrows, and all the things that you would think of samurai and ninja, right? But those techniques are set in a time of battle, right? You're battling someone, where someone who just does self-defense would argue that, yeah, but in a self-defense situation, you're always going to face a surprise attack. You're not going to be standing in front of someone like this and battling out with a sword, or, shooting your bow and arrows, 100 yards away at an oncoming force. So there is that, well, which one's going to give you the greatest benefit? Okay, so now that we talked about Koryu versus Gendai, let's just get to this next point. Is Koryu training applicable in reality-based self-defense? On its face value, the answer to that is no, it's not. And I know you guys are like, well, wait a minute, you have a Koryu organization, and then you also say you also have a focus in reality-based self-defense. That's one of the reasons we're talking about this today, because a lot of Koryu absolutely do not have a focus on reality-based self-defense. However, we do. The Koryu focus on the scrolls and the ancient writings of the samurai and the ninja and the ancient warriors of the past, and they do it exactly like it is on the scroll. It's like that's the scripture, right? And because they stick so hard to the scripture and the way that it was written, they don't venture off of that. And that looks very methodical. It looks very 1, 2, 3, whether it's with a bokken or a katana or a spear or something along these lines. And they don't take that training and look at it from okay, how can we take these principles and philosophies and apply them to self-defense? Now, a lot of Koryu schools don't even give a damn about self-defense. They're doing it as a museum piece. They're trying to maintain a certain tradition and maintain a certain teaching. And I think there's nothing wrong with that, as long as you're saying, we are a Koryu school and we are teaching, you know, blah, blah, Ryu, and we're teaching right off the scrolls, and that is what we're doing, and we're just gonna maintain a tradition. Well, there's nothing wrong with that. But here, I believe that the Koryu, or the ancient warriors of the past, they wrote all these down, these techniques and arts down, not to be a museum piece. They wrote them down because they wanted to let the future generations be able to protect themselves, protect the ones that they love, and to be able to fight or battle tyranny from a government or an oppressing government. And I gotta be honest with you, I can't turn on the news every single day and not see that crime is just massively going up every single day. You look at the crime statistics, it is very obvious from about here in the United States, about 2016 to 2020, somewhere in there. Those years, crime shot through the roof, you know, and you know, we could all argue about why. I think that's a stupid argument. We're not gonna argue about why, but the reality is it did. Crime drastically ran up in 2016 to 2020. Those years, it went way up, and it didn't stop in 2020. The country during that time period was more divided than ever. Hate became normalized, prejudiced people became normalized, and it just caused so many problems. And because we live in a time where our country is just nothing but chaos and violence and people bickering and arguing, and they absolutely cannot live like adults. They can't agree to disagree and just go on about their business. We live in a country to where violence is a very normal thing. And I believe, as the headmistress of a traditional Japanese organization with thousands of students all over the world, I believe that we should not just learn these arts that we have, but be able to apply them in a reality-based self-defense situation. So, when the question is, does Koryu work? On its face value with the majority of Koryu instructors, no, it is not applicable in reality-based self-defense. You're not going to start whipping out a bokken or a katana to protect yourself. However, the principles and the philosophies from the old kata can still be applied today. The tools change, right? But the principles and philosophies will always remain. So what we do in this organization is we look at some of the ancient kata, and all the students in the organization, you guys know you're training in the 7 warrior traditions, whether that's, you know, Kokoru Kempo, Tenjin Ryu Jujutsu, Eishin Ryu Iai Jitsu, Tomo Ryu, Shinobi Jitsu, Togakure Ryu Ninpo Taijutsu, Koto Ryu Koppo Jitsu, Gyokoru Koshi Jitsu. And we are going to be studying these ancient arts, and we're studying these ancient kata. And when you do the kata, it's very obvious just from the naked eye that, okay, that's not what a fight looks like. So how do you extract the principles and philosophies from those teachings, from the ancient warriors of the past, and apply them to self-defense? That's what we do in the Budo School of the Warrior Way. So that's where our self-defense and our Goshin Jutsu stems from. So for you guys who are part of the Budo you're in one of our dojos, or you're in the online Ninjutsu dojo, now you'll start seeing where we get that information from. It's not like we teach 7 traditions and we have a self-defense program on the side. No, the self-defense is from the ancient kata. It's we deriving those principles and strategies and the teachings of the ancient warriors and applying that in a reality-based self-defense situation. And as a Koryu instructor, that's really difficult because the Koryu community is hell-bent on not changing anything. It's like, no, this is the sword technique, your foot goes here, the kamae is here, the position is here. And they are very strict. So then they see us, and we're doing all the classical kata. Every student is going to be trained and tested on the classical kata, but they also have to perform the principles and philosophies in a reality-based self-defense situation. And from a Koryu perspective, or from the Koryu community, people don't like that we apply our techniques in a reality-based self-defense situation. They're saying, no, you should only stick to the scrolls. I just disagree. I just do not believe that the ancient warriors wrote this shit down on scrolls to make it a museum piece when they were warriors. They fought for something. For all of you guys watching the videos, clearly you're following my channel, you're a subscriber and you're a supporter, right? What I would like for you guys to do is type down in the comment section and tell me the martial art that you study, and does your art stick too much to the traditional ways and say that they do self-defense, or do they only do self-defense and they don't do tradition? Where are you guys at on the spectrum? Or do you guys train in a traditional art such as Jujutsu or Taijutsu or whatever it is you guys do, right? And do you guys branch out from that tradition, from those kata, and study like firearms and edged weapons and self-defense situations and survival skills? Because we do here, but is that something that you guys do, or is your school pretty much set to just doing the traditional arts, and then it forces you to have to go to another school or another organization to learn those skills? So share your opinions with that down below, okay? So now let's talk about self-defense. When you're talking about self-defense training, you're talking about training and techniques or methods that will be applicable in a very fast, quick, aggressive, violent situation within only a few seconds. So in a typical martial art situation, you line up in a kamae, they line up in a kamae, they do this, you do this, right? Most kata are based on the idea that they do this, you do this. Or you do this, they counter, and then you do this, right? The idea is to teach this concept, right? So that you can understand basic skills. Even in sparring, you see the person in front of you and it's, are you ready? Are you ready? All right, let's get it on, right? So that they're still in front of you. In a self-defense situation, when you're training in self-defense, or Goshinjutsu is what it's called in Japanese martial arts, you don't know that the attack is there. It's a blind attack. You were unaware. Now, of course, we can go down yes, you need to work on situational awareness. You need to know when the attack is coming. You need to be more aware of your surroundings and all that. And I agree to that. But the reality is, in a self-defense situation, it's a surprise attack for the most part. It happens unexpectedly, and now you have to protect yourself, and it's very fast, it's very quick, it's very aggressive. So when you're studying self-defense techniques, you really don't focus so much on the traditional ideas of like various kamae and positioning and things that you see in the traditional martial arts. It focuses more on the applicability of it. If you can do it, it works, right? And that leads us to another real topic real quick before I take this turn here. I truly believe in my heart that when people say, oh, that's a fake martial art, or that's a fake martial art, I'll tell you what I think a fake martial art is. I truly believe a fake martial art is a martial art that you're training in that doesn't work. If it doesn't work, then it's a fake martial art, because martial arts should be applicable within combat. That's the point of using the word martial arts. So if it doesn't work, if you cannot apply it in a combative situation and there's no applicability to it, then to me that is a fake martial art. So getting back on the self-defense training, a lot of times you'll see people say, okay, we're going to do a self-defense clinic, and it's going to be a self-defense class on, and let's say it's going to be a self-defense class on, they'll work on various types of grabs or various punches or knife attacks, gun attacks, things of this nature. And it's always going to be you're put in a situation where you don't know what's happening, and in some level they do some type of randori training, which is like, you know, some sort of like chaos training, or like resistance training. You know, like maybe you learn in the class, you'll learn 5 techniques. So one against a right punch, one against a grab, one against a knife, one against a stick, one against a gun, something like this. So then you're put in the middle of the class and you're surrounded by people, and then you don't know if they're gonna punch you, kick you, stab, gun, whatever, but as soon as they go, you gotta react and respond appropriately towards the said attack, because you just learned various techniques. That form of randori, or resistance, because it resists to the idea of you or stop your mind, is the resistance part, not so much like resistance like weight training. It's your mind unlocking that resistance to apply correct technique. That's something that you see a lot within self-defense training, regardless of whatever self-defense class that you go to. Now, a lot of martial arts do that as well. I'm not saying that martial arts don't, but if you're using the stereotype, they usually don't. Martial arts usually teach a kata, and they do it in a set pattern, and you do this kata this way, and that's the only way that you're going to do it. So when we're talking about which way is it better to learn martial arts, or is it better to learn self-defense techniques? Well, at this point, you might be leaning more towards the self-defense techniques. But now let's kind of flip back to the martial arts. Let me throw some things at you. When you're studying at a martial arts school, things that you do get that you don't get within self-defense training is usually the first and foremost is going to be fitness. You're going to get yourself in some sort of physical shape. Where you take a self-defense class, you're not going to be worrying about doing push-ups, sit-ups, and squats, and hitting the bags, and doing cardio and weight training and things like that. With martial arts, conditioning is kind of a big thing, or at least it should be. Here in our organization, conditioning is a big thing. And it's something that should be, because you should learn how to strengthen your mind, your body, and your spirit. But when you get into a martial arts training, there are so many other things that you get to do that help you and benefit you, your mind, your body, and spirit. So you're learning history, learning tradition, which strengthens the mind. Obviously, learning something and getting your brain working is beneficial. The camaraderie with other people, that helps bring yourself down so you can learn how to be a better person and communicate with other people and be part of something. You also get that sense of honor too, and duty, because if you're part of this school, this organization, you don't want to lose on the street, because then you feel like, you know, you got to uphold that honor to whatever organization or patch that you wear over your heart, right? So that patch, that banner, it means something, and you're not gonna like just let yourself get your ass whooped just because, you know, someone starts to attack you. There's gonna be a little bit of that, I've got to fight back, and you learn that warrior spirit also through martial arts training. Where you just go on a weekend self-defense class at the local Y, you're probably not gonna be developing, you know, samurai spirit. Through martial arts, you also get sparring. Now here's another thing, does most Koryu spar? No, not generally. But we do. So again, I get it that we are a Koryu organization and we do things not normal than the Koryu, but I do believe that there is a very huge beneficial aspect towards sparring. I think that, you know, doing pressure testing, live resistance training, and putting the student in a position to where, yes, they're going to have to face defeat, I think that is a very crucial lesson that they need to learn, which is why we have various different types of sparring drills at the dojo. Here you're going to be doing sparring drills for striking, where you're punching and kicking and working on your striking skills. You're going to be doing sparring drills for throwing and positioning, so you can get your opponent to the ground with various nagewaza. You're going to do sparring drills where you're grappling and rolling around for position and locking them out or choking them out. We're going to do sparring drills where you add all three together, where you're striking and kicking and grabbing and throwing and grappling on the ground if it goes to the ground. We also do sparring drills where you're going to have some sort of a weapon and you're going to have to use your weapon versus their weapon. Or we do sparring drills in randori where they have a weapon and you don't. We do sparring drills where you have to take out multiple attackers. There might be 2 or 3 of them and it's just you, and you got to figure out a way to get to, you know, what will have some sort of a safe zone. You got to get there before they take you out. We'll also do situations to where it's going to be multiple attackers everywhere and it's just kind of a chaotic situation. The reality of it is here, I just truly believe that doing sparring and pressure testing and live rapid response training, so RRT is rapid response training, I believe that's a huge beneficial aspect towards training. You don't get that in a self-defense class. You get the other stuff. You get the techniques, you get the surprise attack stuff and things like that. You're not really testing your skill set in a live sparring pressure tested situation in that sense, right? I get you can pressure test self-defense and self-defense class, I get that, but those are usually around drills and concepts, not this constant battle that goes back and forth like you see in sparring. Now the self-defense people will tell you that kumite or sparring is not reflective of a self-defense situation, and they are absolutely true. Sparring or kumite or any of those kind of sparring randori situations, whether it's the striking skills, the throwing, the grappling, all that, they are right. That is not reflective of a self-defense situation. A self-defense situation is a surprise attack. You don't know what's coming, etc., etc. But what it does do is it does teach your mind how to react in a situation that is not controlled. It's not a set pattern, and you have to problem solve constantly, very quickly, in an intense, violent situation. And that's not where the self-defense comes in, because in a self-defense scenario, they're going to give you concepts and you have to apply those concepts, and they might mix those concepts up and do various drills, but generally speaking, when you're doing self-defense techniques, you're not sparring. Where when you're sparring, it's so fast, it's so quick, it's very violent, and in that situation what happens is your mind has to constantly work and act and react to the environment. So when they're punching and kicking, defense, boom, 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 how do you counter? You got that quick time to react to that particular attack, because then they're doing something else. Then they try to throw you, then they try to grapple, then they try to kick. And every time it's block, counter, move, 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 position, position. So even though, yes, it does not reflect that of a self-defense situation, what it does do is it trains the mind to react appropriately in an intense, aggressive, violent situation. And that training of the mind is crucial towards true self-defense training. So at this point, we really haven't decided which one is better, doing self-defense techniques or training in martial arts. So what is the benefit of martial arts? What's the benefit of training? Because earlier I said it's very easy for someone just to go out and buy a firearm or buy an edged weapon, and you already have a very easy access to something that's going to neutralize the attack, assuming that you know how to use the weapon, you train with the weapon, and you know how to get to the weapon. We can go into that, that's another video, but let's just go with the fact that you purchase the weapon and you actually train with the firearm and the edged weapon. You don't just buy it and stick it in your room. So what is the purpose of martial arts training? Because martial arts training is not easy. You got to do the physical conditioning, you got to learn the kata, you got to learn history, you got to learn tradition, you got to do all these things. So where in self-defense techniques or self-defense classes, you don't do any of that at all. So why would someone want to do martial arts instead of self-defense, just doing a self-defense course? Well, it's because it's not easy, that's why. And I know that sounds a little crazy, but follow me. When you're in the dojo and you're learning kata and waza and various techniques and history and tradition, you're going to be critiqued, and that teacher is going to say, no, you're not doing this right, you need to do it like this. So that takes a shot at the ego. So not only do you learn humility because you have to do the sparring and the grappling and you're doing something that's hard, you're also going to get a check on your ego, because the teacher's going to be like, well, you're not doing this right, you got to do this, you got to do that, you know, and those kind of things. Also, it's a very good lesson to learn. A lot of people today are so self-centered, egotistical, narcissistic, selfish ass that they can't get away from their own image they have in their head. And I can't tell you how many times we've had people come in and they think they're just a badass, and they come in and they start their ass whooped in sparring, and they're these big bodybuilder dudes, and they cannot hack the training. They can't do it because of their ego, their self-image. They can't accept critique. Doing martial arts is hard, and part of doing martial arts is learning how to be humble and learning to check that ego a little bit so that you can become a better person. Mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, everything becomes stronger through martial arts training. There's a saying in the martial arts, and I believe it's a Mike Tyson quote, I could be wrong, but there's a saying in the martial arts, and it says, everyone has a plan until they get hit. And that's true. You know what I mean? Everyone will tell you what you need to do in a reality-based self-defense situation, and then when shit hits the fan, sometimes those techniques don't work. So people are going to argue which is better, self-defense techniques or martial arts training. I feel that what's the best situation, obviously, is a martial organization like the Budo. No, we're not the only ones, but a martial organization that's like the Budo, where you're learning traditional martial arts, and from those ancient kata, the instructor is talented enough and knowledgeable enough to derive the principles and strategies and teach not only how to do those kata the way that was taught hundreds of years ago, but how to apply those techniques in a reality-based situation where you can protect yourself, protect the ones that you love in this increasing violent world that we are living in. So to me, I don't know that one is better than the other. I think you have to train in them both. I think you need martial arts training because this world is becoming more and more violent, and you have to have self-defense training to polish the technique to make it better, to be responsive in an extreme, violent, combative situation. So there's today's video. If you guys like this video, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I do post 2 to 3 videos every single week. That way you guys can keep up with everything that we're doing. Also, if you guys are interested in authentic ninjutsu and classical samurai bujutsu, please check out my website at www.budoninjutsu.com. There you guys can see the 7 traditions, the strategies and philosophies and principles that we teach. If you don't live next to one of our schools, you guys can always join the Budo online ninjutsu dojo, and you guys can start training with us that way. So again, thank you guys very much for your love and support. I deeply appreciate it. Until next time, take care, be safe, and good luck in your journey of Budo. Bye.